We just witnessed one of, if not the greatest season for point guards in NBA history, and because of that, ranking the top 15 of them led to an extreme loss of sleep for me. I finally have my list, so here it is. I value the impact of winning greatly, and considering how in Milwaukee a year ago, Jrue was an all-star, I think we should give him the 15th spot. Without Jrue Holiday, all the moves the Celtics made in the offseason would have meant nothing because his presence as the point guard that can play on or off the ball at a high level while being a top defender is something you don't get from anybody. At 14, we have James Harden, and it's simply because he is the system. Now, I dislike James Harden just as much as anybody, but I do have to respect the fact that the only reason his play is so detrimental to his team in the postseason and why being so bad hurts them, because he's the person that runs the offense, facilitates everything, sets everything up. He's irreplaceable, and when he plays bad, his team plays bad. And that's why he gets the most of the blame he does, but it's a role that not everybody can fill. So I give him that respect, and that's why I have him at 14. It's truly crazy that a player averaging 24 points, 8 assists, and 5 rebounds on 43, 37, 84 shooting splits isn't in the top 10 point guards. And it's LaMelo Ball, who played 22 games this year. My biggest knock on LaMelo is his health. He's kind of the Kawhi Leonard of this position, so I struggle ranking him. He hasn't had an all-star caliber season over a stretch of 65 games yet, and that's my biggest knock on him, so I can't put him higher than 13. Jamal Murray could be debated with LaMelo on my list, but playoffs are big for me, especially when it comes to rankings and my views on players, and that is why he finds himself over players like LaMelo Ball and James Harden pretty easily for me. Now, I will say Jamal Murray did have some rough moments this postseason, especially early in games and in the Minnesota series. But as a champion, Jamal Murray gets a break, and what I have seen from him throughout his career, I'm not worried about his postseason that much and will not factor those performances into this list as much as I could. After a rough first season in Milwaukee, filled with conflict, drama, and off-the-court issues, the belief in Damian Lillard as an NBA player has taken a hit. Now, it's kind of crazy considering he was a consensus top 5 point guard the past few seasons, especially last year, but I guess his performance was bad enough for many people to drop him. My personal reason for dropping him is because there's just so many players at this position that showed that they were better and not necessarily that Damian Lillard was that bad. Since Damian Lillard is turning into one of the more underrated players in the league, which is kind of crazy. The 2024 Most Improved Player, Tyrese Maxey, took a leap many of us hoped and expected this year, and he changed the future outlook of Philadelphia basketball, as he proved he can be more than a co-star to Embiid and can potentially be the essential star sooner rather than later. Normally, a young star, new to the star-level role, will have their production take a massive slip in the postseason, but Tyrese Maxey stayed up and continued to show more promise with every game. He has an argument to be higher, but with how loaded this position is, 10 has to be his spot. Like Maxey, another Tyrese shocked many NBA fans, but I actually wasn't shocked because I said that Halliburton and the Pacers were going to be surprisingly good before the season started, and it aged pretty well. However, the beginning of the season made Halliburton, in my opinion, one of the most overrated players in the league, as people claimed him to be the best point guard in the NBA. Ridiculous statement, and it did not age well as the season progressed as he got hurt and his performance dropped off. My opinion on Halliburton is that he is a prolific three-point shooter, an elite pacemaker, and floor general, but the Pacers system allows Halliburton to thrive. Many argue he is the system, but watching how Andrew Nembhard and TJ McConnell performed without him makes me question how much the system factors into the high assist numbers for him. Either way, he is easily a top 10 point guard and can rank as high as 5, which is a level of generosity I will not apply to my rankings. Yes, De'Aaron Fox is my favorite player, and that could have a high factor in why he's at 8. But let me just give you some statistics. The Sacramento Kings were one of the worst wide open catch and shoot 3-point shooting teams in the league this year. And De'Aaron Fox is a player that is at his best when he's getting to the basket, getting downhill, and getting in the paint. It is harder for a player to get in the paint when his team cannot shoot the basketball when they're wide open, because then there's no floor spacing. So what does that do to De'Aaron Fox? It makes his points per game go down. But he still averaged 27, 6, and 5 this season, despite that glaring issue. Now, if your team didn't have floor spacing and your best player thrived on getting to the basket, your best player stats would drop too. So stop the De'Aaron Fox disrespect. He is a top 8 point guard in the NBA right now. As much as I love De'Aaron Fox, I will not be crazy delusional by putting him over a player like Ja Morant, although there may be an argument for it. Suspension and injury made for his season to be a lost one, but electrifying moments combined with absurd performances makes Ja easily one of the fan favorites and one of the best point guards in the NBA. Something people always critique with point guards, specifically ones under 6'4", is that they are too small to lead teams and be one options on winning teams. Ja Morant has proved that theory wrong time and time again, and I for one have zero doubt that he will continue to prove it wrong next season. If Ja Morant plays next year, he's going to be viewed as an arguable top 5 player, and it won't be negotiable. The disrespect to Trae Young has gone too far after this season. I have been someone who has criticized him a lot, but I for one cannot continue to do so until the NBA media gives him the respect he deserves. Trae Young just put up 26 and 11 this season with a terribly constructed roster, yet no one wants to credit him as a top guard in the NBA. The only reasons people don't like Trae Young is for petty reasons. It's time to put the pettiness aside and respect a player that averages 26 points and 11 assists a night and give him the recognition he deserves. At 5, last year's best shooting guard, we have Devin Booker. As a Suns fan, Booker sure does love to piss me off and leads to me ranting about him constantly. But in all seriousness, he is one of the most prolific scorers in the game, and the development of his playmaking ability has been allowing him to be recognized as a potential top 10 player in the NBA. Now, I don't agree with that agenda at all, but I do agree with the statement that a lot of people tend to bring up, and that statement is that he needs to figure out how to carry himself in a better way, as he acts like he's a player he's not. Just play basketball. That's all I ask as a Suns fan. At 4, we have Steph Curry, which is crazy to me. Historically, Steph Curry has dominated the point guard rankings, and every point guard has been compared to him, yet no one has ever passed him. This year, not just one, but 3 players have passed him, and the reasoning for it is consistency. Not Curry's consistency, rather my own. Every year I say Curry's the best point guard because of what he does for the Warriors, getting them a decent record, then tearing up every team in the postseason. This year, 3 players got exceptionally good records and did the exact same thing. So I had to acknowledge that, and I do have to put Steph Curry at 4. The first player I decided to put over Steph Curry is Jalen Brunson, as he led the New York Knicks to the 2 seed in the Eastern Conference, despite all of his teammates falling due to injury. He resurrected the Mecca of basketball last year, and with all the performances we see night in and night out, both regular season and postseason, it's hard for me to actually make a compelling argument to have Steph Curry over him, because he did put this team on his back, a team that was 1 game away from a conference finals this year. Brunson also had elite efficiency despite insane usage, and realistically could be the best point guard in the NBA. Unfortunately for him and Knicks fans, SGA and Luka exist. This SGA-Luka debate is a big reason for why I lost sleep. Realistically, they are a 1A and 1B after this season, and I keep swapping them, and I've swapped them twice while recording this video. Before SGA fans get mad, I do want to be on the record saying that I would rather have SGA on my team over Luka. SGA is the most consistent player in the NBA and brings it on both ends of the floor. He does not complain about anything and carries himself at an elevated level. This is the player that should be the face of the NBA. In reality, he did outplay Luka in the Thunder Mavs playoff series this year, but given Luka's injuries during the series, I don't think it is fair to factor that matchup in this list as much as some can use it. Considering everything, I have to put SGA at 2 on my list. Obviously, in my opinion, Luka Doncic is the best point guard in the NBA, given the fact he's at 1. My reasoning for it, outside of what we already know, is that he simply put has been number 1 or number 2 in most people's eyes the past few seasons. And as someone who has been reluctant to put him over Curry, I cannot just automatically put SGA at 1 over him. But in addition to that, he just led the Mavericks to a finals run where the Mavericks as a team were the lower seed in every matchup and a team that was not favored in 3 out of the 4 series they played. It is hard to look past that run, and that is ultimately why I feel he is the best point guard in the NBA. And that is how I'll conclude the point guards video. Next Friday, we'll have our shooting guards rankings, which you don't want to miss. We do rankings, tier list, and grades every Friday of the off season, so make sure you subscribe and turn on post notifications if those are the type of videos you enjoy. If you're looking for a weekly recap, I have one called In Case You Missed It, where I recap everything that happened in the week of basketball, and the latest video is on the screen, but those drop every Monday. Y'all have a good one, stay safe, bye.